my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. I'm excited to talk about some of the books I've read this last week, and so let's just jump into that. I read the book Rosemary, the Hidden Kennedy Daughter by Kate Clifford Larson, and this was actually really interesting. It gave a lot of history around the Kennedy family and specifically focused in on the daughter Rosemary and her life and how she had some mental challenges and how that wasn't really addressed well at that time, and specifically in the family, and how they dealt with it. So super informative. I learned a lot about the Kennedys in general, as well as specifically about this and the history of how people with mental challenges were treated. And it was very interesting. It almost felt like just like watching a slow motion tragedy, as at a certain point she is given a lobotomy, and this was a common practice at a certain time, and it was pretty awful. Honestly, just some of the language surrounding how family members talked about Rosemary was just shocking. Rosemary's mother even would say things like, "Why did I have children that die when they were healthy and could contribute to society, and Rosemary's still alive?" And you're like, oh my heavens, I didn't know people talked like that about humans, you know, like, and so I mean, honestly, I found it pretty shocking. I thought it was very interesting. By the end, I feel like the author was kind of trying to wrap it up in a very happy, wholesome sort of way, and I am not sure if I really liked how it ended up. The author kind of made some conclusions that Rosemary's life was all worth it because it caused the Kennedys to put a lot of money and resources into helping people with mental disabilities, which, great, that's great that they did that, but I didn't like kind of that, I don't know, there was just something that felt a little off to me, like, oh yeah, her life and her horrible mistreatment were worth it. Like, that seemed a little off to me. But overall, I did really enjoy this book, so I do recommend it if you are interested in any of those subjects. I read this next book on the advice of the channel Sterling Reed, so I'll link that down below. And this was The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. And I actually adored this book. It's basically just a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but from the perspective of Mary, which, I mean, is a little bit of a different perspective. I really enjoyed it because I'm just kind of a sucker for a good Pride and Prejudice story. I won't say it's anything that deep or that amazing, but it was fine. The first half was very much focused on Pride and Prejudice, the book, and then the second half was kind of what happened after, and gives Mary her own story, and I enjoyed it. Something I really liked in that book that I did think was kind of an interesting perspective was just the relationship with the mother in Pride and Prejudice, where we have Elizabeth who can look at her mother, Mrs. Bennet, and say, oh, she's just ridiculous. You can see how Mary, as a younger child, takes really to heart the things that her mother said and feels that hit on her self-esteem when she feels like her mother doesn't think that she is beautiful or valuable. And I thought it was a very interesting perspective because we do see things from Lizzie's perspective, and we might see in Pride and Prejudice, and we might see a lot of the situations as more farcical, where Mary really takes them more personally. And I liked it. It very, very much humanized Mary and made her relatable and lovable. It was delightful. So if you like Pride and Prejudice, don't want it to end, would love a new perspective on it, like, jump into this one, it's great. I read the book Passing by Nella Larsen, and this was first published in 1929, and I feel like its subject matter is something that would have been very interesting. It's very interesting that it was talked about at this time period. This has two women who can pass for white, and one of them has completely left her home community, is married to a white man. He has no idea that she is actually a member of the Black community, and the other is kind of our main character that we follow, and she is still part of her home community, but is very intrigued by this other life that this woman is that Irene is leading. And it's very interesting. I feel like as a main character, we have Claire, and she does not seem very, like, I don't find her very sympathetic. Toward the beginning of the book, we have a little bit of a scene where you see her lacking in empathy for someone else, and I feel like that kind of continues throughout the book. It has some interesting themes, but it also just seems so short. I just don't know if anything was explored as much as I would like. But for a book that was written in 1929, even introducing these ideas, I feel like is very worthwhile. If this was written more recently, I would maybe hope that since these ideas have been out there, it'd be interesting to see them, see a little more depth. I think, talking about the issues of, being able to pass in a white society, and the issues that come with that, the leaving your community, the having to deal with the having this dangerous secret, seeing the everyday racism, all those kinds of things. I can see those being really important discussion points. I just don't know if I really connected to it, especially because I didn't find the main character very sympathetic. Okay, I read this book, Milkman by Anna Burns, and I really kind of enjoyed it. I feel like I read it wrong though. So this is telling a story of a girl in, I think it's like in the 70s or 80s in Ireland. It's in the middle of the Troubles. There's a lot of political unrest. At the same time, this man starts following her and making some veiled threats about the boy she's dating, and is trying to get her to be with him. And it's kind of ambiguous, but at the same time, very, I found it very suspenseful. It's written very interestingly, like the city isn't named, people don't have names. It's all the names are in relationships to each other. So it's older sister, younger sister, third brother-in-law, first brother-in-law. It's all based on relationships to each other. So the telling is interesting. It almost kind of gave me fairy tale vibes. And have you ever read a book where you just think, I want to direct the movie. I wanted to direct this. And do you know what I wanted to direct this movie and make it? I wanted to make it like a psychological horror movie, because she's a little bit of an unreliable narrator, our main character. And you can tell she might be missing some things that are going on. People tell her upright, you're missing things that are going on. And the town itself is missing things. They can't quite process difficult things that happen or beautiful things that happen because of the political unrest. And I was like, I want to shoot this as a horror movie and, shoot the same scene in multiple different ways so that it seems really scary, but then she looks back on it and she's like, well, nothing happened, so it can't be that bad. And anyways, I was reading into it as that, which made me a little bit disappointed in the last few chapters, because in the last few chapters, it kind of wraps up and it doesn't keep that same suspense that I kind of felt going through the whole thing. And so I was a little disappointed when I got to the end. But I mean, if you look at like the genres that it is listed under, nobody's saying that this is like a thriller. No, this is just a fiction, a novel. But for some reason, it just had so much suspense for me. I really felt pulled along by it. So I enjoyed it. I thought that there were a lot of interesting things. It really focuses a lot on like the gossip and the hearsay of a community and how much power that has. And that really built up the suspense for me. Just this feeling that she was trapped, that nobody she went to believed her side of what was going on. Nobody was listening to her, and she might not even know what was going on, because she might not be super reliable. I thought there was a lot of that going on. Super interesting. I don't know, I did enjoy this one. If you've read this, let me know how you read it, because for some reason, it just seemed so, like, I was just really gripped and scared. Anyways, I did enjoy it. Let me know what you thought of this one. And that was the last few books that I have read this first week in August. So I will be back soon with some more books. And if you have any recommendations or thoughts on these books, please let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you all on the next one.